सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। Which verse? 45th verse. Yes, Ubalambhat Samacharan Maya Hasti Yadochyate Ubalambhat Samacharad Asti Vastu Tadochyate. That we have seen. In the magic show, the elephant that you see is real while the show is on. But the moment the show is over, it is unreal and we know it. You know, that way, when I am in the waking world is as a reality, hence it is called mithya, relative reality. But from the absolute standpoint, is it absolutely real? Meaning, is it the same in every period of time? It is not. Okay? Having understood that, Jatya bhasam chalo Chalabhasam Vastvabhasam tathaivacha Ajachala avastutvam Vijnanam shantamadvayam Jatya Abhasam. Abhasam means only a appearance. Abhasam means what? Appearance. See, there are the reality that you see are at three levels. Paramartha Satta. Satta means reality. At the level of Paramartha. Paramartha Satta, with capital letter reality. Okay? Now, in the world also you see some type of a reality which in the rise of knowledge it will disappear. So that is called Vyavahara Satta. It has got Satta. How long? Only till the Jnanam arises. So it is called, what you see in the reality that you see in the world now is Vyavahara Satta. Vyavaharika Satya. Not a real. And also there are perceptions which are not even mithya, but which are totally avastutvam. There is no such vastu only. You understand? Avastutvam means the inability to be a vastu even. Avastutvam, imagination is said to exist because of its being perceived. I am sorry. Jatyabhasam, pure consciousness which seems to be born. Jatyabhasam, Chalabhasam, or it is moving. Why the world is real? Because it's a moving world. We say like that. Actually, movement itself is not there in the Paramartha Satya. But we are seeing a world moving, and we say, if I am not moving, then I am dead. Suppose I don't move at all. Huh? The moment we die, people come and see whether any breath is going, whether the eyes are seeing anything, all that type of tests they will do. Okay? So, movement is not, it is only chitta spandanam. We have seen that. Actually, the objects are not moving, the subject is mana. Manakalpidam, when we say manas spandana chitta spandanameva. That chitta spandanam, you wear a glass which is green in color, the whole world becomes green. You wear a glass, spectacles which have got the chalabhasam, means it is, spandanam is there. There is movement in that, then the whole world appears to be moving. Have you understood this example? In the same way, chalabhasam is also, it is an abhasam. Abhasam means not real appearance. Abhasam means appearance. So, vastu abhasam. And in the same way, we see the world as real, seeming substantiality. What is vastu abhasam? Seeming, it is a substance, it is real. That reality that you see is only a seeming one. Vastu abhasam is really pure consciousness which seems to be born or to move or to take the form of matter. Meaning thereby, all the material world is also real. Abhasam it is. Vastu, the real vastu is appearing as the world. That is also a jadi only. Born only. So, this birth, the substantiality means its existence itself, you are imagining. The existence of a real world you are imagining. So, vastu abhasam. So, how many abhasas now? Jatyabhasam, chalabhasam, vastu abhasam. None of them are real. There is no vastu here, but you are thinking the vastu has become, is reflected here as the world. Vastu abhasam is really ever unborn. Why? Because ajaha, aja, achala, avastutvam, vijnanam, shantam, advayam. How do you know that this is all unreal? Because the reality is explained again. Ajam, unborn. Achalam, cannot move. So whatever is moving is not the vastu. And avastutvam. Avastutvam is immovable and free from materiality. Matter it is not. You know, the world that you see is a material world. And Brahman is not matter. Avastutvam is there. Okay. So then everything is an abhasam, vastu. Brahman, looking through our ever fluttering mind intellect, is the motionless eternal appear to be moving. When you are looking through our own fluttering mind and intellect, everything looks moving. That's why I told you the story of the Zen master who told the students, one said the mango tree is shaking when the rain comes. The other said, no, it is the other way around. Which way? That mango tree shakes when rain comes. Not when mango tree shakes, rain comes. So they were quarreling among themselves. It cannot be because it is my pratyaksha anubhava. They were fighting among themselves when the Zen master arrived there. And he said, what are you fighting about? Who is right, Guru? They asked. Then the Guru said, both of you are wrong. The mind is fluttering. Not they. Both your minds are Fluttering. So the mango tree, who sees the mango tree? Mango tree is fluttering. Who sees the rain? The rain is. You understand? This is how we are seeing. Through our own mind, full of ragadveshas, full of that, this, full of vasanas, we look at the world and think it is all real. Avastutvam is there in it and we see Vastu Abhasam in it. Vastu Abhasam means Vastu is real. Vastu means the Brahman is the Vastu. But when it appears in the material world, we call it, a apparent world. It is the Abhasam of the Vastu. It is the appearance of the Vastu, appearance of reality in an unreal world. It's called Vastu Abhasam. Okay. Tathaivaja, whatever you experience is Abhasam. Meaning, all Drishya Vastus are Abhasam Tajjadam. Yadrishyam Tajjadam. Now, Vastu or Brahman, looking through our ever-fluttering mind and intellect, the motionless, eternal appears to be moving. Through a fluttering glass, if you look at the world also will be moving. So that is what is happening in our experience of the world. Hence, Vastu, Avastu, other meaning is, Vastu is matter, Avastu is Chaitanyam. In that meaning also, you can take this word. In this meaning also, you can take this word. So don't say, no, she said both, which is right. We are only thinking which is right, which is right. Whether we are right, that is not at all a question. You understand? We are looking at it from that standpoint. If you say Vastu, na Vastu Ubalabdhaye. When you say what is that Vastu? Chittasya Shuddhaye. Nadu Vastu Ubalabdhaye. What is that Vastu? Brahman. Avastu is not Brahman. What is it? Anatma. Avastu. So it can be, in Sanskrit is such a language, you can go on doing punning with it. And that is what the teachers do sometimes, which makes the student who doesn't know Sanskrit very miserable. You understand? It has got connotations which ordinary languages don't have. Okay. Seeming birth, seeming substantiality means seeming reality. What is substantiality? Reality. It is substance has substantiality. It's not a substance, but it looks as though Brahman has become the world of matter we feel. That is why I say here Vastu can be matter, Avastu is Chaitanyam, it's only Brahman. Jatyabhasam Chalabhasam Vastu Abhasam Tathaivaja, the three levels of reality. Ajadam, Ajalam, Avastutvam, Vijnanam. Vijnanam, that knowledge, absolute, the consciousness, the pure consciousness is Aja, not born. Ajalam, immutable, immovable, changeless. Ajalam means all the meaning is there. It is immutable, truth. Avastutvam, it is not Avastu. When we say Avastu there, Chaitanya. You understand? That is why don't get confused. When you say Vastu, by Vastu you mean consciousness. Avastutvam means it is also Vastu has two meanings. Take it like that. Vastu has two meanings according to the context. So, Vastu can mean substantiality or apparent reality. Vastu matter. Let us put it that way. Vastu means matter in certain instances, in certain contexts. But Vastu also mean in the higher context, Chaitanya. So, Avastutvam means what here? Chaitanyam. Avastu here means not a Vastu, not an object. You understand? What is it then? It is neither the subject nor the object. It is the consciousness. Pure consciousness can be only explained as avastu, not a material object, but other than that, avastu. Did you write down correctly? Now afterwards you will forget and then you will think, what did she say? Wait. Vastu means both. Vastu means ordinary matter. Everything we say is a vastu. Okay? A substance. A book is a substance. It is a vastu. You understand? But when it refers to the higher, also we can say vastu. But that which has reality. Chaitanya Swarupa. It's called vastu. Now vastu can also mean, avastu means either, avastu means chaitanyam here. Vastu abhasam means apparent substantiality. So in that way you have to understand, free from materiality, immovable and free from materiality is avastu here. Have you understood this, or did I confuse you more? Yes, I think. Write the example there, then you will know. What is the example for vastu means Brahman or Chaitanyam? We say, why do we do sadhana? Listen carefully now, I can't go on repeat it. When you are doing sadhana, why you are doing? Chittasya shuddhaye na vastu upalabdhaye. There vastu means what? Have you understood? Not the substance but Brahman. Whereas here vastu means what? That which is a material, vastu abhasam. That which is the, what can I say, not a material, but the Chaitanyam appearing as a vastu is called, vastu means as a substance is called vastu abhasam. That avastu, which is not a material object, appears as a material object is called vastu abhasam. So, avastu in this context means that which is pure, avastu here means Chaitanyam, and in the second line it is Chaitanyam, in the first line vastu is material object. It appears as real. Vastu abhasam means that which is not the vastu appears as vastu. It is called vastu abhasam. Okay? I don't know. It is clear to me. Whether it is clear to you, I don't know. We will read it, then we probably will know. Yasmin sarvani bhudani atmaiva buddhijanada. And after realizing that, what happens? Satrakum mohaha kashokaha egatvam anubashyade. In the Ishavasya Upanishad, here vastu is matter, avastu is Chaitanya, but vastu can also be Brahman in another context. Only that much you need to know. So, if it is Brahman, these material objects appear as Brahman. And Brahman is avastutvam in the second line means it is not a material object. Avastutvam is not a material object. Then why is it? And what is vastu? Vastu is Chaitanyam. Here vastu, here vastu, avastu is Chaitanyam, vastu is matter. Topsy-turvy. That is all you can say. Usually vastu we use for Brahman, Chaitanya. That is the difficulty in translating these things. Should not translate. Then you will be very clear. But when you translate into English, you need a bhashyam for it. Otherwise, anyway, we'll read what Gurudev writes. Motionless and looking through our ever fluttering mind and intellect, the motionless eternal appears to be moving. What is the motionless and eternal and which is not an object? Avastu there means which is not an object. That Brahman appears to be moving, appears to be born, appears to have become a substance, an object. Now it is clear? Oh, they say the way they do their head only, you know they are not. Because I have learned to differentiate between the nod of understanding and the nod of doubt. Why am I sitting here for so many years now? And so I know. Did you understand? Did you understand? The whole face will shine with understanding. Oh, what can I do? I can only explain. Words have my only tools to explain anything to you. And if you do not go by the words, you will not understand what to do. If the Supreme Reality were unconditioned and all-pervading and available neither for the sense organs nor for the mind and intellect to perceive, then what is it that we are seeing in front of us? The various names and forms moving about with special individual qualities. This doubt should come naturally to every beginner when he starts the study of the theory of Vedanta. An explanation for the apparent world is given here by Gaudapada. You write in that, in your book, it is a explanation for the apparent world of reality which is in front of me now. Okay. Now, pure consciousness which is unborn appears to have been born. What is that abhasa called? Jati abhasa. Okay. And appears to have been born into the multiple forms, actively participating in a field of life with reference to a given time and place. I am seeing that. That Jatya Bhasam I am seeing. Now, the all-pervading cannot be moved. It is all-pervading. Then the word all-pervading will have no meaning. So, all-pervading cannot be moved. Movement of a particular thing means its change from a given point to another, but in time and place. Nothing can remain at once at two different points of time. Dvayabhasam, remember earlier, and place. One can move from one chair to another because the same person cannot occupy two distant chairs at one and the same time. All this doesn't need any argument. I cannot be occupying this seat and another seat simultaneously. How can you? We cannot. Because there is no movement in Brahman. I cannot occupy, but the reality which is ever present at all spots and at the same time could not in fact make any movement, and yet we are seeing the names and forms moving about. But we are seeing Chalabhasam. Everything in this world is Chalanatmagam Jagat. So it is moving about. And that never moves. So, this Achalam, these words are used in Shruti. This Achala Vastu appears to be Chalam here in the world. So you say it is only an Abhasam, Chalabhasam. Okay? That is understandable. Next only is the difficulty. But the reality, movement, this concept of movement has come to us because of our identification with our own mind and through it with the limited world of sense objects. For example, when we are in a boat, the trees on sides would seem to be moving. Chalabhasam. Trees are not moving. We are moving, is it not? So also, when you look at the world, you think they are all moving, people are running, and so many things are happening. In fact, you cannot think of a world without movement. A world without a movement is a dead world to us. Is it not? But Brahman is what? There's no movement at all. That is why only in the still moment of meditation you have even the glimpse of the Atman. Not when you are talking, not when you are running around, not when you are going from one place to another. Not then. Collecting all the rays of the thoughts into itself and sitting even for 2 seconds, you have a glimpse of that higher state. What is Samani Bhavam, then you will know. Have you understood? All these have to be practiced. No, Nididhyasanam is enough. Knowledge is enough. No. We are simulating what will happen to a man of realization. In sadhagasya sadhanani, siddhasya lakshanani, sadhagasya sadhanani. Siddha lakshanam is sadhana for the sadhaka. So what will be that state? Perfect peace, tranquility, serenity, beatitude. See the words that are used for it. Beatitude. B-E-B. So what do? In meditation also I try to bring my mind to quietude from all movements. And what is Jatya Bhasa? Nothing is born, so the world should not exist for you. In meditation, the thoughts are so controlled that there is no world outside. I am not thinking about anything in the outer world. I am nobody in the seats of meditation. I always insist on this when I take meditation. I am a nobody in front of the Lord. If you don't have the attitude, you will be thinking, my daughter, I don't know when she is coming. Where is the mind now? In the Chala Bhasa. I am nobody. I am not a father, I am not a mother. Na guru, na shishya. In the meditation seat, I should forget I am teaching anybody. Which really I want to do. Then I hate that. I always hated that guided meditation when I was a student. Now when I am teaching also I hate it. Because there is a desire for you to become, I wish she keeps quiet. You will be thinking, I also wish I don't have to say all these things. I just want to glide into it. Have you understood? It's a wonderful state. And in that state alone, you have a glimpse of that. What he said, Ajam, unborn, Achalam, Avastu, Shantam, Advayam. Even for, Gurudev says, you will have to struggle for 15 minutes to get 1 minute of meditation. Don't think that 20 minutes you are meditating. No. You are preparing the mind to meditate. Pratyahara. Withdrawing the mind from all roles you are playing there in the outer world. Masks we call it. One by one you remove the masks. Father, husband. Like that all the masks are removed. And then what remains is you without any, what can I say, how to put it? You have no identity whatsoever. This is meditation. Don't think meditation is sitting there and allow the mind to wander here and there and then come back and they say, I have finished meditation. What meditation? Meditation. That is what it is. Not meditation. That focusing of the mind to reach that Eki Bhavante, all thoughts becomes one in that highest. That is called meditation. Just as you in the deep sleep, you don't have any identity, and you say, I did not know anything in deep sleep. In meditation also, I did not know the world. Should be like that. Not being there, what is for breakfast? Huh? And whenever the time for you to go comes, I find it very difficult even to teach meditation or anything. Why? Because all have reached their homes 4 days before. அங்கே போயிட்டு இத்தனை வேலை இருக்கு, அதெல்லாம் பண்ணணும், இது பண்ணணும், அவனை காணணும், இவளை காணணும். Correct or not? This is what you do. That means even before you have started from here, you have reached your home. In certain things you are very, very powerful, more powerful than Brahman. Anyway, so I'm sorry. And now he says, for example, when we are in a boat, the trees on sides would be seen moving. The trees on the banks have in fact no movement, and yet with reference to our own motion, the trees seem to move. And in the same way, we think that the world is moving. Who is moving? We are moving. We means what? Our minds and intellects are moving, and we attribute that movement to the world. Chalabhasam. Similarly, when we are looking at the world through our mind and intellect, which in themselves are ever in a state of flux, the motionless eternal factor seems to express itself through movement and action. This is a mere delusory appearance. With reference to the matter envelopments, the individual gets into the delirium of plurality, and hence Gaudapada says here that things appear as though born, as though moving, etc. In fact, there is neither movement nor birth nor change. In fact, the absolute truth is immovable and free from all qualities of matter. It is ever blissful and non-dual. Because our mind and intellect are fluttering, we have the notion that the unreal is real. The real is unreal. You understand? The real appears to be unreal, and the unreal appears to be real. What is the fluttering of the mind do? The unreal world appears to be real, and the real is not there. For whom? For the common man. The reality of Brahman we deny, but the reality of the world we emphasize. Unreal becomes real, and consequently the real becomes unreal to them. They say, what? Brahman, what? I don't need all that. Okay. Thank you for telling me. Understand this? First of all, we take it for granted. The student who comes to the feet of the teacher in the halls of meditation, in the halls of Vedanta, is serious about reaching the truth. If you are not serious, then nothing we can do. Nothing the Shastra can do. Nothing that great gurus can do. Yedi, in Vivek Chudamani says, in case you want to realize, then only all these are applicable. Otherwise it is not applicable. You are living in a world and you are doing your own little sadhanas and you are happy with that. Okay, God bless you. We have no objection. It was never said in the Shastra that all will realize at one time. It is never said. So why should we worry? But even the little knowledge is so very useful. That is it. I didn't understand the some things and all, but some I understood. And it makes a better life for you. You change. By listening to Vedanta only you change. So that is the whole idea of teaching the Shastras. Otherwise Shastras need not be taught. Only those who are wanting the realization and they have reached the height of Vairagya and Samadhi, Shatka, Sampatti, etc., Mumukshutvam, all the fourfold sadhanas, Sampatti, they have. Only such people we need to teach. If to teach them is very easy. But to teach a man from the world and tell him the world you are living is all unreal. You don't tell me, you don't dare to tell me anything, but I know when I go from the class, you say all time, laugh. What, it is possible or what? So, nothing. Here in the 46th verse, he says, Evam na jayade chittam Evam dharma ajasmrita Evameva vijananto napadanti viparyaye Evan na jayade chittam. The chittam, thus the mind is never subject to birth or change. Whatever you see other than Brahman is never subject to birth and change. And if at all you are seeing them, it is like Ghatakasha, only imagination. There is no Ghatakasha, there is only Akasha. You understand? Ghatakasha is a mere sangalpam, kalpayadi. It is only kalpana. What about jiva? Jiva also is a kalpana only. Because if you say there is a second thing, then the non-duality of Brahman will come into question. You cannot say. So, I am seeing Jivan. That is, you are seeing that snake unnecessarily on the rope. What can we do? I am seeing a Jiva. Jiva also is like that only. Nothing is born. It is, whatever appears to have been born is only abhasam. Jati abhasam. But this philosophy is it practical? Some people will ask. Is it practical? You cannot tell your child, you are not born. Arey, he is born only. How can we say? Understand, the body is born. You understand? And body will one day perish sometime in the future. But body is born. But that person we call, whatever name, he is neither born nor he dies. What is that? The Chaitanyam in you is never born. It is ever there, all ever existent reality. So when the Vedanti says, I am not afraid of death. I am afraid of my body may be suffering, that is all. But I know death is not for me. Death is only for the body. If you are saying you are afraid of death, you are afraid of the body's annihilation. And the body will die. Whatever you do, it will die. So don't get attached to something that is going to die. Not only die, that is even now dying. Not in some future. It is said about Jesus that John, his Shishya, Jesus Shishya. They used to walk miles and miles in that desert areas and all in Jerusalem. And Somebody came and informed that John's father is dead and the funeral is going to happen. So John wanted permission from his teacher to go for the father's funeral. Then he said, John, let the dead bury the dead. Let the dead bury the dead. You come with me. The meaning is what? You are also in the process of dying. Everybody is in the process of dying. Already dead. That means that plan, master plan has put to your hit list, you are all. All of us are in that hit list. But when? We don't know. Is it not? Then why worry? And what is there? That is not John's father. That is a body. The person you called John's father has left. Is it not? Left, or it's not in that body anymore. Oh, this Vedanta is very bad. Why? Because it makes us all inhuman. You think like that because you don't have full knowledge. The one who has full knowledge, when we went for the Samadhi of our Gurudev, there was grief, profound grief, but nobody was crying. There was profound grief. We can feel palpable around us. You can even touch that grief. That way it was. But nobody dared to. Then once in a way, some emotional people will be there always, and they were shedding tears. And then the Swamis used to say, we never cry for the Samadhi of a great man. We cannot. Why? He is not gone anywhere. What for we should cry? That's what we had. And it was a wonderful experience that everybody is soaked in sorrow, but there is dumb grief everywhere. No expression. I can vividly remember that day, even today. Have you understood? This is what expected of a Vedanti. Vedanti knows that the body will always die. It is only a question of time. But he knows that there is an imperishable something which never dies. That is the Atman, the self, the Chaitanyam, whatever name you call it. Nobody dies. And so much you must believe in it not to feel sadness about death. So much you believe in this, so much you have to believe. Then only you will never, at least I have seen some people who never cried at great grief. They are not cried, they were only chanting the name of the Lord and sitting with the dead body, very rare. That is not, if you think it is inhuman, it is. It is not inhuman, but it is the fullness of understanding. It is the fullness of understanding. Knowledge, it is. Evam na jayade chittam evam dharmo ajasmruta. And also, the mind is never subject to birth or change. And all beings are indeed free from birth. All beings here means all the dharmas, all the jivas are also free from birth, already said before. Jiva na jayate. So all the beings also are free from death, because what makes them a jiva, it can be a human being or an animal or a bird, whatever it is, what makes it a living being? Dharma here means a living being. What makes a living being alive is the presence of that immutable, unchangeable, imperishable something. That mysterious presence we call God is what is making it a being. Otherwise it's not a being. Suppose that presence is not there, it is a dead body. It's a what you call it, a decomposing thing. Not even thing. It's a decomposing thing. It's amazing. We have all the knowledge, but we never live according to that. As soon as somebody dies, we put all that. What is it? Some Kujudikalan or some basmam. Why? Ants will come. Why? How does ants know? We didn't send any telephone. Phone communication has not gone to the ants. How did ants know that somebody is dead, something is dead, cockroach is dead? In 2 minutes the ants will come, is it not? And human beings also. What is the difference between cockroach and human being? Tell me. The human being also dead, same thing happens. So we put all basmam, gismam and all because in nature there is no such thing. Something dies and it will be next day, it won't be there. It just disappears. You know, in that in that big pipe that we have between the two, what is that? That garden there. You know, where there is the lilies. Lily pond is there. And in that there's a huge pipe. And one day one rat went and fell in that and died. It went inside and died. So the whole place was smelling. And we can't take it also. It is somewhere inside. We suffered that smell 2-3 days. After 3 days it slowly became less. And after 5 days no smell is there. That means it has become mud. Panjatto Mabu. This is also our state. Very interesting, to watch these natural happenings. That means what the Shastra says is you are not going to die. Your body will die. Definitely it will die. Chitta evam dharma ajaha smrda. So there is nothing born in this world. What is born is the body, mind and intellect. And compared to body, mind and intellect live longer. Longer means until you realize. So you go from one body to another and to another, like that. So this mind and you are never dying, really speaking. If you think the mind and body dies, it is also not dying. Body alone dies. They have got greater life. Who? Mind, intellect. Sukshmam. Sukshma Shariram. Sukshma Shariram does not die with one birth. We don't know when it dies, but it dies sometime. When the Mahatma attains Jivan Mukti, it dies. Then they won't have any mind. Not like that. That problem creating mind is not there. That's all. Mind is there. It is said that Jivan Mukta is reveling in the truth and he comes out suddenly when it is hungry. Why? Because hunger has to be satisfied in a living being. So he comes out and then he is the body till the time he eats food. After eating food, he again goes back. These are all imageries of the writers. Which other way can we tell you? Okay. Evameva vijanando napatanti vipajyade. They will never fall in sorrow. That's one who understands this. They will never fall in sorrow. Only by this knowledge we can be released from false knowledge and fear of death. Only by this knowledge. It is ignorance which make one think that the Chaitanya is born, and that the jivas are born. Only ignorance can make you believe that. Okay. So then from 28th to the 46th verse, he once again establishes Advaita Siddhantam. Ending this verse, 46th verse, from 28th to 46th, establishes Advaitam. Now he is entering into the famous example of Alada and establishes Brahma is the Satyavastu. There again we say Vastu there, Satyavastu. So from 47 to 56 is Alada explanation. What is Alada? We have already seen. You understand? But you only studied in the 15th chapter. Arjuna goes. Krishna answers such people. You think you are the one who is learning the Veda. I am the one who wrote the Vedanta books. He says Vedanta Krit. I only am the Vedanta Krit. I only had not written. I am the creator of Vedanta Darshanam. But we are the one who are realizing that. At least that much you must give. Okay? Then he says, no. I am the Vedavid. I am the one who knows also. I am the one who created Vedanta also. Like that he says, everything is, I myself am doing. My God, this Krishna must be a very great egoist. Everything I only have done. No, not like that. Bhagavan is not talking from the ego. He has no ego. We have ego. He has no ego. What he is saying? There is only one. So now what word can you use? There is no second. And how can you? Suppose you are the only one in this world. Then how will you communicate, if at all you have to communicate? But to whom are you communicating? It's a very difficult thing. Only when Dvidiyat Dvayam Bhayam Bhavadi. If there are two, you are afraid. Then only ego also will be there. When there are two only, there is ego. When I alone am there, what is the ego? To whom to show that ego? You understand, there is no ego in the Lord. This is not to be taught. This has to be read verse by verse and meditated upon. You know, I was a teacher of English long ago, and then I used to teach poetry. And poetry is I used to love to teach poetry. But if you take poetry English poetry in the classroom, you must never take word by word and say its meaning, and then you lose the spirit of the poem. Poems must be read at least part by part, and the whole thing, the spirit of it must be brought out by the teacher, not the word meaning. Word meaning has no value in poetry. And Vedanta is more subtle than poetry. Yes or no? You can have some sympathy for the teacher. What I understand also is very difficult to communicate. That is why some rishis go and sit in the cave. Nobody I want to see. And then if the students go, that's all. Mauna Vyagya Prakadita Parabrahma Tattva. It's very difficult. And there are very few English teachers who can bring that poetry alive. Why? Because they are going by the meaning. And finally the student didn't understand the spirit of that poem. You can write a question answer, that's all. But the spirit will be lost. That should not happen in Vedanta. So you can forget every word, but you must hold on to the spirit of each verse, as it were. That is most important. So he says here in the Spandanam of the Alada example, he brings about from 47 to, what did I say? 66. Riju Vaktradiga Bhasa Abhasam Alada Spandidam Yatha Grahana Grahaka Bhasam Vijnana Spandidam Tadha. He says Rig Vaktradiga Abhasam. The Abhasam means only appearance, not reality. Riju means straight lines. Vakra means crooked. Vakram it should be, I think it is not Vakram, I don't know. In your book? Vakra only, no? Vakra, it should be Vakra if he... This is... Vakra, Vakra is correct to me. Vakra, maybe Vaktra also means the same thing, I don't know. But to my mind, Vakra means crooked. Ashtavakra. We don't say Ashtavaktra. Ashtavakra. Vakra means crooked. Ashtavakra's body has got 8 bends. That is why he is called Ashtavakra. Vakra, there also it is only Vakra, not Vaktra. Vakra means Tunda means Vakram, broken. Okay, that you know very well. Okay. Riju Vakradiga Abhasam. It is an appearance. Aladam Spandidam Yadha. When will you see all those lines of light lines, as it were? You hold a firebrand in your hand and light it. So the light, that lighted tip of the alada, when it is moved very fast, it gives you an appearance of straight lines, crooked lines, some patterns. Like a, what do you call? Like your column and all that. Many varieties of patterns can be made with one lighted tip of or even udubati. If you hold it in your hand, there is a lighted tip, and then you have got the appearance. How did the appearance come? You ask, every time, how the world can appear like this. So, if a harmless alada can give you so many patterns, how many patterns God can give us? He is what Swarupa? Jyoti Swarupa. Not a lighted Jyoti also. He is Jyoti only. So how many varieties of appearances can come to us from that Paramatma Chaitanyam? Here he says, Alada Spandidam Yatha. In the same way as a firebrand, when its motion appears to be straight, crooked, etc. So also consciousness, he says here, Grahana Grahaka Bhasam Vijnana Spandidam Tadha. And when the consciousness, when in vibration, how does it get into vibration? By being reflected in the mind-intellect equipment, then it becomes vibrating. Not by itself, it never vibrates. Looking through the mind and intellect only, we have the Vijnanam Spandidam. Vijnana Spandanam gives rise to Grahana Grahaka Abhasa. Grahana Grahakam, the subject, object. Grahaka Grahana appears. When that Grahana Grahaka Abhasam, the real meaning, perceiver. Grahanam Grahakan, the perceiver, and the Grahanam, perception. Grahanam is perception, Grahaka is perceiver. Meaning what? What is the perceiver? The subject. Perceiver is the subject. And Grahanam takes place. Grahanam means not that Grahanam. Perception takes place when there is an object. So object is understood there. There is the grahaka, grahanam, grihya vastu is there. That is understood. Grahaka, grahanam, like that. Like that, you see, the object of perception, the perception, the perceiver, and the object. These three things, experiencer, experience, and experienced, is there. Is it not? All this, how did that one Vijnanam, that consciousness, pure consciousness, how did it become Grahana Grahaka, Grahya Vastus? How did it become so many things? Because of the spandanam, of the medium through which it is projected. Not in itself there is no spandana, but the mediums have spandana. What is the medium? The mind intellect equipment. Like a prism, the mind changes everything that goes through it. Like a prism can make one pure light into 7 vibgyor colors. Is it not? Similarly, your mind with all its vasanas, with all the ragadveshas, can give a very different picture when the pure consciousness passes through it. You have, what a beautiful simile it is. And what will happen? You don't see it as it is, you see it as many different patterns. Like a prism, it has divided the pure light of consciousness. And it is due to its the movement of the medium, not the bimbam. Bimbam is not moving. Then what is moving? The medium is moving. And because the medium is moving, everything appears to be chalabhasam. I don't think I have ever read such beautiful examples in any of the books I have read. Only this great genius can give this type of elakad. And the clarity really overpowers you. It's not some example you say and leave it. It is not like that. He says, in the same way, the Atman, which is motionless, appear to be moving in that world of objects because of the intermediary medium, the subject. First it becomes the subject, then it becomes, or first it, I forget, that is only in Panchadashi they give so beautifully. First he created the objects, then he created the subject or something like that. Not created. That word should never be used here. There is no creation, there is only manifestation. Hence we must not use the word creation. Okay. Avidya. And what is really doing the spandanam? It is the ignorance in your mind is nothing but maya at play, we say. Mind is nothing but vasanas at work. All these definitions are given elsewhere. Where you ask me, I don't remember. So, that mind, because of the avidya is what gives rise to the agitations of the mind. And that agitations make you feel that the world is a chalanatmakam jagat. So, 2 examples he has given which have to be thought over. Like he says here, Rijuvakradiga. In order to, these are, I am reading because in case I left some point, you should not be the misser. That is why I am reading this. The one consciousness is surrounded by darkness of ignorance. It appears as many. That movement of the ignorant mind is what creates a world in motion, as it were. Chalanatmakam. Regarding the ultimate reality already stated, we have here the great analogy of the firebrand. Because of the use of this example, there is a school of critics who claim that Gaudapada had borrowed this from the Buddhist literature. Because this Alada example is there in Buddhist literature also. So they say he is a concealed Buddhist. So far as Vedantin is concerned, it doesn't make a single difference whether you call me Buddhist or Christian or that or this. What difference does it make? One who has gone beyond all divisions. Are you able to see? You must not get angry also. You are a Buddhist if they say, tell us, no, okay, I am a Buddhist also. Is it not? I am that. You mean to say that is not there in the Buddhist? Buddhist also has. All unacceptability comes because of our ignorance only. Once you know the truth, there cannot be ignorance in you of anything. Though anybody calls you any name, what does it matter? It's only Vajarambhanam, Namadheyam, nothing else. I am not that. Then what I am? I am Brahmasmi. You tell. Aham Brahmasmi. So am I a Buddhist? Yes. Am I a Christian? Yes. But is your philosophy Buddhist philosophy? No. Why? Because I am a Vedantic philosopher. I hold on to Vedantic philosophy. And it contains everything. Exclusive it is not. It is the all-inclusive theory. We try to leave that in our ashram. In Chinmaya mission, there is no division of anything. We never, at least government asks what caste you are, community you are, what is your religion. We don't ask any such questions here. Anybody is welcome. Somebody comes, some Muslims come, some Christians come, so many people come here. That's one thing I like about our mission. No orthodoxy, no intolerance of all. Anybody can come and sit in that dining hall and eat with us. We never say no. You understand? Oh, we didn't know that, then we won't eat. If you then I will tell you, take the ticket and go back home. That's all. You are not a Vedantic student. That is how we live it. All the time, aware. See how many how many Americans also in our, in our ashram in Sandipani, they were given this knowledge as elaborately as it is given to all of us. Not that they have separate classes. You understand? We do not make divisions. If we make divisions, then we are not Vedantins. So Vedanta is nice to hear, but to live it is very, very difficult. When it comes, in the house, then only problem will start. Son says there is no jadi and all, now I want to marry this person from that caste or whatever caste. So then the parents' true Vedanta will come out. If he is a true Vedantin, he says, what is there? That's also Atman. But if he is not a Vedantin, then you say, don't ever enter my house. Both of you get out. Difficult, to practice. No, but we are living in a society, Amma, how that society had really destroyed such a great philosophy by living like this, by living like that. Really, I must tell you, the weakness of Hinduism is that. Otherwise, do you think with such a philosophy you live, this whole India can conquer the whole world? We need not use the methods employed by Bush and others. Conquer the world by love. But we are not. We are really still Dvaidins in the heart. Bas. Okay. So, Ajala, Ajad, I am sorry, where are we? 47. As Rijuvakradiga Abhasa Aladam Spandidam Yadha Grahana Grahaga Abhasam Vijnana Spandidam Tatha. How it gives rise. The patterns do not come from inside to the firebrand, from inside the firebrand, from outside the firebrand. Does it come? Where does the pattern which the alada is producing come from? It's not from inside the alada. Or is it from outside? It's not from outside. It's neither from inside, from outside, or the firebrand. So also nothing is coming from the Paramatma, nothing is coming from outside. Everything is coming from your own Spandamanam mind. But why did he create the mind? He didn't create anything. You are seeing everything including the mind. If you look nicely, you will see yourself also there. But you stand outside and watch. That is why you think everything is coming from somewhere else. All coming from within. We will see that later. It's a bit explanation is required. We'll leave it. 47th verse, na? 40.
47th is 48.
48. 48 looks like 43 in my book. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vaishishyate Om Shanti.